I'm a teenage male beta, born quiet and reserved. Especially after starting high school, my artist parents would complain that I hadn't said a single word to them in years. I thought about it and decided I'd greet them tomorrow. But that very night, they left without a word, flying off to the grasslands for inspiration, leaving behind a silent home and a speechless me. A month later, they suddenly reappeared and asked why I hadn't been talking. I was about to answer when they ran off again, excitedly this time, to Africa, Antarctica, snow mountains, rainforests. Finally, worried, they took me to a hospital to check why I wasn't speaking. I suddenly felt exhausted and couldn't say a word. So they were convinced I was mentally ill. They even faked medical records and sent me to a psychiatric hospital. I stayed there for 3 years. The day I was discharged was my 18th birthday. But I didn't expect that the people picking me up weren't my parents. It was a young couple in their 20s. In front of me stood a tall alpha with black hair and earrings, blocking my view. "You're Archer." I nodded, a little confused. He grabbed my luggage. "Let's go. From now on, we're your mom and dad." I didn't move. I just stared at his young face, feeling like I'd run into a lunatic. Finally, the beautiful Omega spoke, his voice gentle. "Hello, Archer. I'm your mom, Calvin. This is your dad, Curtis." I tilted my head, puzzled. 3 years away, and the world outside is full of paired-up lunatics? Calvin suddenly smiled in surprise and patted my head like he'd found an amusing pet. "So cute. Your eyes are so dark, like a little puppy's." I silently resisted his touch. Curtis had already put down my luggage, looking impatient. "Calvin, bring that fool over. I've got things to do." At his words, Calvin grabbed my wrist with a strength I didn't think possible and pulled me along. Calvin and I sat in the back seat of the car. He kept touching me, pressing hard, as if he wanted to reach my bones through my skin. "Why are you so skinny? Mom's gonna fatten you up," he said, sounding almost pitiful. I stared at his gentle face, wondering if I was having a mental breakdown. Why did every spot he touched hurt so much? I even shed tears from it. Calvin smirked mischievously. Archer's eyes are all wet, so pitiful. Curtis finally stopped him, his tone relaxed. "Calvin, take it easy. This is my nephew. Don't go hurting him for real." "Nephew?" I caught that and hoarsely asked. "Dad." But because I hadn't used my voice for so long, the sound vanished before it came out. Curtis laughed from the front seat. "Ha, good son. Dad's got a reward for you when we get home." Calvin's smile stiffened, his beautiful face darkening. "Why call Dad first? What about Mom?" He pulled me into his arms, stroking my hair, coaxing. "Archer, call me Mom." "Crazy." I stayed silent, closing my mouth, ignoring Calvin's deranged words. They brought me to a villa. My room was clearly prepared with care. But the bed in the center was huge. Big enough for 4 people. Calvin pinched my cheek, grinning. "First time in your new home, Archer. Mom'll sleep with you." Curtis suddenly snapped. "No. Don't forget, you're still my fiancé. He's a beta, you're an omega, how can you sleep together?" Calvin ignored him. "Why can't a kid sleep with their mom?" Curtis' handsome face was tight with anger. "Calvin, are you seriously treating this like a real-life game? Why not?" Curtis kicked the door, violent anger in his gaze. "Damn it. Crazy. If it weren't for the family arrangement, who the hell would play this disgusting game with someone like you? You just want to satisfy your perverted control obsession." "Curtis, don't curse in front of the child," Calvin's expression darkened. Curtis sneered. "Ha! Child? Look at him. He's an adult now. My nephew just asked us to take care of him. Really acting like a real mom, huh?" After that, Calvin's face went blank, but I could feel his anger simmering. He smiled again. Why not? I like him. I don't mind being his mom, even a single mom. Crazy. Curtis' face darkened. Don't forget your duties as a father. We agreed, didn't we? Calvin returned to a polite smile. You cooperate with me to create a perfect family, and I'll agree to marry you and support the Jiang family. Curtis snorted and looked down at me. Fine, we're a happy, loving family. The universe won't explode, we won't split up. Right, good kid. I sat on the chair eating cookies, trying to piece together the backstory, suddenly caught in the middle of a war. Annoying. I paused, looked up, and obediently nodded. Yes, Dad. As expected, Calvin's smile vanished. So I continued eating my cookies in peace, ignoring the flare-up of conflict again. Curtis, his face scratched and clearly annoyed, said to me, "Let's go, Archer. I'm taking you to get some clothes." Calvin insists on cooking himself, so he can't come. I stared at him for a moment, and the corner of my mouth twitched ever so slightly. Curtis laughed angrily and smacked my head. You think I can't see that little smirk? Acting all obedient, but you're such a little trickster. I covered my head and glared at him, but he just ruffled my black hair proudly. Well, well. The little idiot can get angry too. Immature. I gave him a cold look. Then Curtis, as if I were a little chick, lifted me and carried me to the car. At the nearest clothing store, he dragged me down by the wrist. The salesperson immediately approached, polite and professional, clearly noticing his impressive presence. Sir, what kind of clothing are you looking for? Curtis rested a hand on my shoulder and placed me in front of him. Everything this kid can wear. Get it all. Yes, sir. We'll wrap it up and have it delivered to your residence shortly. I nudged Curtis, giving him a look that clearly said, this is overkill. Curtis didn't pick up on my hint, chuckling lightly. Don't get too emotional. The salesperson smiled supportively. Your partner is very generous to you. I froze. Curtis couldn't hold back a laugh. Ha! Miss, you got that wrong. He pulled me close, pressing his head against mine, his dominant presence suffocating. Actually, I'm his dad. The salesperson smiled obediently, though the glint in her eyes suggested she imagined something else entirely. Curtis continued pinching my cheek, coaxing. Say thank you to Dad, little son. Idiot. I cursed in my head. When Curtis brought me home, Calvin had already prepared a huge spread of food. He smiled gently at me. Welcome home, Archer. Calvin walked over, taking my wrist from Curtis' hand, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Archer, why are you getting along with Dad so well? Ugh, boring. Curtis rolled his eyes and plopped into a chair, blunt as ever. All this food? Didn't see you cook before. Calvin lightly tapped his hand with chopsticks, laughing. You can't touch this drumstick, it's Archer's. I obediently took it. Free food is free food. Curtis tapped the table impatiently with his long fingers. Doesn't a chicken have 2 legs? I'll take the other one. Calvin shook his head softly. Nope. When the kid's here, parents can't think of themselves. He carefully placed the other leg into my bowl. Archer needs both. He's too skinny. Curtis was dumbfounded but too lazy to argue with a madman. He looked at my bowl, a little frustrated, and started eating quietly. Meanwhile, Calvin seemed determined to feed me to death. I stared at the mountain of food in my bowl and set down my chopsticks with a crisp clack. Not hungry? Calvin asked, worried. Is it not to your taste? Curtis scoffed. Can't you tell? Archer's full. All right then, Archer. Go take a shower and get in bed. Mom will sleep with you. I could never figure out what mindset Calvin had to say things like that. Part of me wanted to run, part of me wanted to die. I remained expressionless. The bed was soft. After my shower, lying down, my consciousness quickly blurred. In a daze, a scented body wrapped around me, pressing my head tightly to his chest without considering breathing. I struggled to get free and saw Calvin's gentle face, now flushed, a little wicked in the dim light. He kissed my forehead, his voice soft and sticky, making me shiver all over. "Baby, you're so cute. Mom really likes you." The Omega's body was so soft, I felt like I was wrapped in cotton, dizzy and disoriented. Thank goodness I'm a beta, I thought. But wait, can a beta sleep on the same bed as an Omega? I was confused. Calvin's warm breath brushed my head. "Sleep, baby. Mom's protecting you." Finally, I managed to think clearly, speaking awkwardly. "No, we can't, Beta and Omega aren't supposed to sleep together." Calvin, half-closed eyes soft with warmth, ignored my refusal and touched my canine. "You really are a little puppy." I suddenly wanted to bite him. His blood would spill, what would it feel like? A morbid curiosity sparked. Calvin withdrew his hand, looked at the moisture on his fingers, chuckled softly, and hugged me tightly again. "Sleep, Archer." His voice seemed magical, making me drowsy. But the quiet, strange atmosphere was instantly shattered. "Calvin. Are you human?" Curtis' furious voice rang out. "You actually released pheromones on Archer." He jabbed a suppressor into his arm, preventing himself from being affected. Calvin still held me, voice slow and teasing. "What's the big deal? Archer can't smell it. Besides, a kid smelling his mom makes it easier to fall asleep." Curtis' expression twisted repeatedly, finally spitting out. "You make me sick." He took a deep breath, seemingly steeling himself. "No, I need to watch this." "He's my nephew, you can't," he didn't finish. I was confused. Curtis, now facing Calvin's murderous glare, reached the bed. He patted my back with a complex expression, then lay down beside me like a martyr. Somehow, using some strength, he pried Calvin's arms off me, positioning me neatly like a child in a coffin. "Sleeping with your father is okay too, right?" He blocked Calvin's mouth from opening. Sandwiched between the two of them, I finally relaxed. Could I sleep now? But soon, they started arguing again, openly this time. "Let go!" Calvin whispered sharply. "Ha, knew it." "Your hands won't stay still," Curtis grabbed Calvin's wandering hands, teasing. "Don't touch him anymore." Curtis pinned me to his chest, alert like a guard dog protecting a bone. Calvin glared and tugged at my arm, trying to pull me out. I was pulled this way and that, unable to sleep. I opened my eyes resentfully, staring at the ceiling in the dark. It was a little creepy. Realizing they were in the wrong, they finally stopped fighting, each holding one of my arms in place. "Remember to behave at tomorrow's engagement banquet," Curtis said coldly. Unnoticed by Curtis, Calvin pressed delicate kisses onto my hand, laughing softly. "Of course. We're a perfect family, aren't we? You're bringing Archer?" Curtis caught the key point immediately. "Yes, I want Archer to give me the ring, as our most beloved younger brother." Curtis snorted coldly. "Should I be glad you didn't say he's your kid? Behave. Archer's real parents will be here tomorrow. If they knew, they wouldn't let Archer stay here." Calvin didn't care, smiling, his grip on my arm tight as a snake. "Oh? Really?" Then I realized, he was probably going to do something crazy. The next morning, I woke to Calvin's soft calling. He looked like he'd put effort into dressing, wearing a white suit that was elegant and warm, his eyes catching the morning light and glowing faintly amber. "Archer, today we're going to the engagement banquet. Get up and eat breakfast." Half awake, I was pulled by Calvin to wash up, eat breakfast, and then escorted to the wardrobe room. Curtis looked impatient, as if he'd been waiting forever. He wore a black suit that day, cold, noble, perfectly complementing Calvin's warmth. Curtis grabbed my wrist, pulling me into a chair. The hairstylist and makeup artist who had been waiting immediately swarmed me. Soon enough, I looked completely different. "Very pretty, Archer," Calvin said with admiration. "Not bad. Looks pretty good, actually, like an Omega," Curtis said, ruffling my freshly styled hair, earning a dark glare from the hairstylist. For once, the two of them seemed to agree. I almost laughed, but then I remembered the engagement banquet today. My real parents would be there. Would they realize their son had become someone else's child? My feelings were complicated. "Hello, Uncle, Aunt, I'm Curtis' fiancé, Calvin." I looked at the elegantly smiling Omega and couldn't help but feel impressed. Even people who disliked each other could introduce themselves so calmly. Daniel, my dad, smiled kindly. "Very well, Calvin. And this little friend here is..." Calvin's polite smile stiffened slightly. He clearly hadn't expected my parents to fail to recognize me. Curtis frowned. "Uncle, this is Archer. How could you not even recognize him?" My mom, Bella, gasped. "What? Archer? You've changed so much." I thought for a moment, brushing my bangs back to show my forehead. "Changed that much?" Daniel looked guilty as well as shocked. "Archer, forgot to tell you. Your parents were busy, couldn't take care of you, so we asked your brother to watch over you." Bella added, "Yes, Archer. Have you been doing well lately?" Calvin's face darkened. Curtis let out a soft laugh. "Auntie, you have my number. If you really wanted to know, why not call before?" Bella and Daniel exchanged awkward glances. "Seeing Archer's okay, we can rest easy. Archer had some mental issues. Curtis, please bear with him." "Yes, we'll transfer some money to you later." "Thank you for taking care of Archer," Daniel said. Curtis held me close, voice cold. "No need. I have money. Uncle, since you don't want to take care of Archer, he'll be under my responsibility from now on." Calvin smiled. "Besides, Archer's adorable. I don't think he has any mental issues." Bella, however, was unwilling to back down. "Archer was only temporarily in your care. He's our child. Once your uncle and I finish traveling the world, we'll take him back. We've already decided to settle abroad." Curtis was about to blow up, ready to argue. I tugged his sleeve and shook my head. He pinched my forehead in frustration, forcing himself to calm down, and strode off. Calvin followed, holding my hand tenderly. In my ear, he whispered, "Don't worry. Mom won't let anyone take you away." I felt dazed. Somehow, compared to my mom, Calvin felt more like a mother. In the lounge, Curtis paced angrily, kicking a cabinet. Damn it. I knew they were unreliable, but I didn't expect this. They can't even recognize their own kid. Calvin shed his polite mask. Calm now. What exactly is your uncle's family like? Curtis sighed. It's a long story. His distant uncle Daniel had been reckless since childhood. Later, he married Bella. Unlike typical arranged marriages, the two actually had a strong bond. Bella was an artist, and under her influence, Daniel grew to love art as well. They constantly traveled the world, chasing inspiration. They were dinks, didn't plan on having kids. But under pressure from their parents, Archer was born. They took care of him just enough to ensure his existence, not to raise him, since his birth wasn't what they'd hoped for. The Jiang family had planned to take Archer and raise him, but soon realized he wasn't normal. He often didn't speak. This audio is originally produced by the YouTube channel, Omegaverse Tales Studio. Please credit when sharing. The Jiang family was large, never short of children, especially capable ones. So Archer spent his childhood in an empty villa, accompanied only by tutors and servants. After a long pause, Calvin finally smiled slightly. I see. Then it's only natural for me to take Archer and give him a new home, isn't it? For once, Curtis didn't argue. He smiled, rare for him. Fine. A day as a father, a lifetime as a father. He's Jiang family blood after all. I can't stand seeing him live so miserably, can I? They exchanged a glance, as if reaching a silent agreement. I watched all this, raising my hand. Calvin noticed me first, approaching in surprise. Archer, what's wrong? I'm still here. You're saying all this to each other, in front of me, planning to take me away? Really? Calvin chuckled, kissing my cheek. Archer, you're amazing. You've said so much today. No hope. I thought, meaning Calvin. Curtis, angry, rushed over and yanked Calvin away, using a handkerchief to wipe my face again and again. Damn it. You talk all you want, but touching like that, like a pervert. Calvin touched his lips, savoring it, then slipped back into his flawless, composed mask. Let's go. The engagement ceremony is about to start. Calvin's people escorted me to a designated seat. On stage, the two of them stood in the spotlight, dazzling, truly a perfect pair. The guests whispered below the stage, full of envy. After the engagement, both families will rise even further. Yeah, I heard this Omega originally refused. No one knows why he suddenly agreed. Who knows? But they do look like they get along well. I couldn't help letting out a small laugh. The bodyguard beside me looked confused. Suddenly, someone lowered his voice and said, "Hey, did you know? This young master once adopted a kid. Also an Omega." I glanced lightly toward the man speaking. But for some reason, he abandoned him later. An unmarried Omega adopting a child? Someone gasped. Keep your voice down. I only heard it from someone else. Who knows what he was thinking? They said at the beginning, he was so attentive. Later, he dumped the kid. The kid went to find him many times and he didn't even look at him. I think I heard about that too. Wasn't his name Henry? He used to be a little rich heir, but after his parents went bankrupt, he got adopted. I lifted my gaze toward Calvin on stage. For some reason, something tightened in my chest. Curtis seemed to sense it and looked directly at me. He winked from the stage, completely inappropriate by etiquette. The cold, elegant alpha doing something that childish, looked honestly kind of dumb. I gave a small wave. He turned away quickly, but the edge of his mouth couldn't hide the smile. Just then, the MC's voice rose, accompanied by soft classical music. Now, let the groom's younger brother come forward to help them exchange rings. Applause and cheers erupted. Someone nudged me. It's your turn. 13. I received 2 identical rings and fell into silence. Which one was for Calvin? Which one was for Curtis? People below whispered, puzzled. Don't the couple usually exchange rings themselves? What's this? Curtis lied smoothly without blinking. This is our younger brother. He grew up with us. Such an important moment should be witnessed by him. He smiled at me. Right, Archer. He lifted an eyebrow and silently mouthed, son. By then I had already noticed the tiny difference in ring size. I deliberately forced the slightly smaller one onto his finger. Curtis hissed under his breath from the pain. Serves you right, I thought, smiling faintly. Calvin's voice came cold and low. Archer. My turn. I slipped the other ring onto Calvin's finger. But Calvin suddenly intertwined our fingers, the gemstone on his ring gleaming like a serpent's eye. The hall fell silent. Our gesture was unexpected. Curtis leaned in and warned sharply under his breath. Let him go, Calvin. Calvin acted as if he couldn't hear him at all. His breath was uneven, stirred by excitement. His eyes stayed locked on me, fervent, devoted, almost unhinged. Archer. I felt hunted. Panicking, I jerked my hand free. Calvin lowered his head, took a steadying breath, then lifted it again with a gentle smile, soft, too soft. He quietly slipped another ring onto my hand. Thank you. A lunatic. With this many people watching, he wasn't afraid at all. I walked off the stage without looking back. The guests eventually snapped out of the strange moment, the brief silence evaporating as if it had never existed. 14. In the restroom, I stared at the blurred reflection of the boy in the mirror, lost in thought. Why was Calvin so fixated on me? If it was really just as Curtis said, pure control, why choose me? There were plenty who were more obedient. I wiped the droplets away and finally saw my own eyes clearly. Dark. Empty. Usually emotionless. I pressed my lips together, annoyed, and turned to leave. A resentful voice snapped from behind me. Who are you? I stopped. A black-haired, black-eyed boy stood there. Beautiful, but not radiant, more like me, carrying a quiet shadow. I didn't answer. I was supposed to be mute, after all. He grew furious and rushed forward, shoving me hard in the chest. My back slammed into the sink counter, sharp pain blooming, but I didn't make a sound. I caught his raised hand mid-swing and stared at him coldly. Get lost. He yanked his hand back, glaring. Why are you next to him? Don't tell me you're his brother. I've never heard of him having a brother. I didn't want to argue, so I turned to leave. But his eyes caught the ring on my hand. He grabbed me and tore it off roughly. How do you have the same ring as him? I stayed silent. A small streak of blood appeared on my pale finger where the ring had been ripped off. The boy's anger escalated. You filthy nobody. Who do you think you are, wearing the same ring as him? So tired. So loud. So annoying. I lowered my head, shutting out his shrill voice. He lunged again, twisting at me. That was it. I slammed him down against the sink and punched him twice, not hard enough to cause serious harm, but enough to stop him. He yelped, struggling violently, his sharp nails raking across my cheek. I was already weighing whether I should knock him out, clean and quick, when the door burst open. A furious shout shook the entire room, loud enough to make my ears ring. 15. Damn it. Who dares touch my boy? Curtis was like a trained shepherd dog seeing his flock attacked, fury blazing in his eyes. He grabbed me sharply, pulling me aside, and without hesitation swung a powerful punch at the boy. The kid crumpled silently, a trickle of blood from his nose. Curtis wasn't done. He kicked the boy a few more times, then turned to me with a worried expression, his voice as gentle as it could be while still stern. Archer, hang on. I'll get a doctor right now. I wiped the blood from my face, realizing I was fine compared to the boy sprawled on the floor. Soon, the doctor and Calvin rushed in. Calvin, trembling at the sight of the blood on my face, pulled me close. Baby, don't be afraid. Mommy's here. The doctor standing nearby broke into a cold sweat, as if hearing a forbidden secret. I sighed. I'm fine. Calvin gripped my hand and instructed the doctor. Hurry. Check him over. Don't worry, just a scrape. Some ointment, and it won't leave a scar. Just a scrape? Calvin's tone was icy enough to cut glass. I can't even bear to touch him myself. He glanced at the ring on his hand, then at my injured finger, and stormed toward the boy on the ground like a demon. Curtis cautioned. You went too hard. You accidentally knocked him out. Calvin smiled coldly. No problem. I'll wake him up. He calmly reached toward a servant. Gloves. The terrified servant handed over the gloves. Calvin slid them on with deliberate precision, crouched, and gripped the boy's neck with long, firm fingers. The boy's face turned bright red. He coughed violently, finally regaining consciousness. Master. Calvin released him. The boy collapsed, tears streaming. But Calvin didn't flinch at the pitiful sight. Henry, I thought I told you countless times not to look for me. But you, before you. Smack! Calvin's palm slammed across the boy's face without hesitation. The boy's face instantly swelled, disbelief and tears mixing. You hit me. Another sharp slap followed. The sound echoed sharply. I shrank back, tense. Curtis chuckled. Scared? Don't worry, he won't hit you. If he tries, your dad will deal with him. 16. After Calvin had vented, his white gloves stained with blood, Henry lay crying and laughing in a mess. Calvin stood gracefully, removing his gloves and tossing them aside. Take the ring from his hand. Henry screamed miserably. No! It's mine! Nobody can take it. The servant struggled with his fingers, but Henry clenched tightly despite the pain. Calvin snorted, then pressed his polished shoe onto Henry's hand. The bloodied ring finally slipped free. Henry wept hopelessly. No, don't take it. Master, I love you. Throw the ring away, Calvin said dismissively, glancing at the floor. Make a new one for him. This one's dirty, unworthy. And send Henry away. Don't let him show up again. The servant nodded anxiously. Henry turned toward the discarded ring, howling in a manic laugh, like a rabbit mourning a fox. Don't get cocky, you'll end up like me. Watching Henry dragged away, I realized his final words were meant for me. Calvin washed his hands, then came over. His cold yet soft touch stroked my cheek. I shivered and pulled away. He looked slightly hurt, retreating his hand, long lashes lowering. Archer, are you afraid of me? Curtis scoffed. What do you think? Big brother, I thought you were going to beat him to death. People like you shouldn't be near kids. Calvin didn't argue this time. His fingers clenched the ring, pale from pressure, as he silently walked away. 17. Once cleaned up, scabs had formed on my face. Curtis grinned wildly. My baby boy, your face looks like a little black cat with scratches. I frowned. He curved his finger and lightly brushed my nose. His earring caught the light. Come on, little cat. Your mom's away today. I took the whole day off, let's go have some fun. Even the boss needs a day off. I thought, but I let him hold my hand. Curtis froze for a moment, then laughed heartily, his broad hand enclosing mine. If Calvin were here, he'd blow a fuse. He dragged me toward the car, tail-wagging excitement written all over him. At the racetrack. Come on, baby. Pick a car, and I'll take you for a ride. I pointed to the only black car among the colorful lineup. Curtis whistled. Perfect. That's your style. This one it is. He strapped me in, floored the accelerator, and the car shot forward like an arrow loosed from a bow. The roar of the engine and the wind rushing past blended with my heartbeat, pure adrenaline. After a dizzying lap, I stumbled out. Curtis steadied me. Fun. What? I mumbled, not catching him. He leaned close, beaming, cupping my face. Fun. Tell me, was it fun? My cheeks squished together, words failing me. Curtis' eyes glimmered strangely. His hand slid down to my smooth neck, voice hoarse. Archer. I think I'm entering heat. I froze. What was happening? I said simply. Call. Curtis didn't move. I poked him. It was like waking a raging beast. He lifted me effortlessly and shoved me into the car. Before I could react, the alpha's strong body pressed down on me. 18. Curtis' breathing was rapid, his eyes stormy, wild. He stared at me hazily, licking his lips. Am I good? I even took you out today to relax. Suddenly, his tone shifted sharply. Let me bite you. I pushed his face away instinctively. I was a beta. I couldn't be marked. Curtis seemed to read me like an open book. You're a beta anyway. One bite won't matter, right? Archer. A sharp bite pierced my skin. I trembled in pain, yet my body softened unexpectedly. His tongue traced the wound, and I heard his restrained whisper. Archer, let me bite you again. I quickly fumbled into Curtis' pocket, pulling out my phone, and dialed Calvin. Calvin's voice came cold through the line. What's this? Showing off how much Archer likes you. The alpha's heavy breaths were loud in the car. Calvin must have heard them too. Curtis. What are you doing? Calvin's voice froze mid-shout. Curtis' eyes gleamed predatory as he noticed the phone and snatched it away. Seeing this, I had no time to hesitate. I shouted. Mom! Archer! What? Calvin's panicked voice cut off abruptly. Curtis hung up, towering over me again. This time, he pressed his lips to mine, one hand already wandering restlessly. I felt dizzy and trapped, praying Calvin would arrive immediately. 19. Some small part of Curtis' humanity remained. He hadn't gone all the way. He pressed kisses and nips repeatedly, but stopped short. Just when I was about to collapse from panic, a shadow appeared outside the car window. You're listening to Omegaverse Tales Studio, a YouTube channel dedicated to captivating short stories. Let's continue. The door was unlocked. Calvin moved swiftly, plunging an inhibitor into Curtis' neck. Mixed with something else, perhaps, Curtis passed out almost instantly, his heavy body collapsing onto me. After a long while, Calvin and I finally managed to get free from under him. Calvin led me into his car, carefully cleaning the bite marks. His hair was damp, sweat glistening, and he looked anxious from rushing here. I lowered my eyes, silent. Calvin's gentle touch didn't hurt at all. I even felt drowsy. He had me lie in his arms, smiling. Archer, you called me mommy today. I'm so happy. Can you say it again? I pretended to be asleep. Calvin noticed my trembling lashes and smiled softly, picking up the inhibitor spray to mist the car. Sorry, Archer. Your pheromones make me restless. Alpha pheromones could indeed trigger undesirable reactions in an omega. I felt the discomfort beneath me. Calvin spoke gently. I've arranged someone to take him away. Then we can go home. Archer, go take a shower. 20. After showering, I found Calvin sitting on the bed, waiting. Fear made me clutch the bathrobe tighter. Honestly, compared to Curtis, Calvin felt scarier, even as an omega. I lay stiffly on the bed. Calvin chuckled, lying beside me like a coiled serpent. His lips pressed against me, weaving a delicate web of kisses that held me in place. Fear forced me to speak. Don't touch me. He paused for a heartbeat, then pressed harder. I tried to push him away, but his grip was firm. He kissed my face and neck, and it felt like he had lost all restraint. His face, so beautiful, was mesmerizing. I blinked slowly, and he kissed my eyelashes. Archer, baby. Archer. Calvin's force felt as if he wanted to mold me into his very bones. I was exhausted, my voice flat. Please, don't touch me. His chest heaved, biting his thin lip until it bled faintly. Archer, don't ignore me. Why? Because of Henry, right? I'll kill him if I have to. Don't treat me like this. I'll die. He pleaded, eyes humble, pitiful, a side no one would expect from such a proud, beautiful omega. I stared at him, asking the question that had been weighing on me. Why, do you love me? Calvin closed his eyes, suppressing the storm within. Do you really want to hear? I nodded seriously. 21. Calvin grew up in a maze of etiquette, deceit, and constant scheming. He lost his childhood innocence early, becoming vicious, cunning, and almost unhinged. Yet he harbored a secret longing. He wanted a child. A pure soul to cling to entwine with completely. No deception. No gain. No harm. all the filth of the world could be left to others. For his child, he would offer only untainted love. But how naive that fantasy was. There are no fairy tales in a powerful family. Calvin kept this secret locked away. He never told anyone. He even sewed a rag doll himself, awkward stitches, mismatched fabric. Under the moonlight, he pricked his fingers repeatedly, bleeding over and over. Finally, on a night when the servants didn't need to watch, Calvin cradled the doll in his punctured hands. The doll had black hair and black button eyes. A few spots of dried blood marked its surface, his own blood, but he loved it all the more. The doll couldn't speak, yet it was the only thing that gave him comfort. This crude ragdoll stayed with him for a long time, until a new servant discovered it. Unaware that Calvin never let anyone tidy his bed, the servant pulled the doll from under the pillow. The tutor, furious, scolded the noble Omega for sharing a bed with such filth. Calvin's mother took matters into her own hands. She whipped her fragile son until he was covered in bruises, then burned the doll before his eyes. The flames devoured it, and Calvin could only mourn its silent black eyes amidst his blood and tears. This twisted his nature further. He became vengeful, cold, obsessive, feared by all. Thus, he became the perfect Omega. Power was intoxicating. The rotten rose began to seep poison. He could never forget the helplessness he felt. He wanted control over everything. Calvin was arranged to marry into the Jiang family, and he accepted gladly. After all, everything was a transaction of interest, a step higher in the hierarchy. At a lavish banquet, the excess of wine made him dizzy. He slipped away for air, and saw a boy. The boy was exquisite, black hair, black eyes, dressed in a British-style coat that made him seem like a prince from a fairy tale. Through the corridor, their eyes met. His gaze was empty, unreadable. Calvin was suddenly reminded of the doll he had lost to fire. He stepped forward instinctively, dizzy in the head. But the boy turned and walked away, as if he had never existed. Later, Calvin searched the surveillance for hours, citing a lost valuable, but the boy was nowhere to be found. It seemed a hallucination. But once the long-buried thought had awakened, he could not close it again. By his youth, Calvin desperately wanted a child. The arranged marriage wasn't ready yet, and he couldn't lower himself to a casual liaison. He decided to adopt a child. After scrolling through countless photos, he chose a boy. Henry, from a fallen noble family, pure lineage. Calvin satisfied every material desire the boy had, caring for him meticulously. Henry quickly grew attached to this perfect image. But Calvin grew tired of the charade. When Henry cried and asked, "Sir, why? Didn't you say I would be part of your family?" Calvin, accustomed to breaking promises to the insignificant, dropped the mask of kindness, expression indifferent. "Because you're not the child I imagine." A body without a soul, he couldn't accept a life not fully witnessed by him. Calvin paid Henry a large sum and told him never to return. Just when he thought he would never find the child in his heart, the one for whom he truly longed, his arranged marriage partner opened a phone. Curtis swiped through photos, irritated. Some distant relative? Why am I supposed to care for a child? Calvin glanced casually, then could not look away. In the photo, a boy with detached black eyes stared quietly at him. His heart thudded heavily. Calvin said, "Bring him here. I want to be his mother." Curtis was stunned. "This is my cousin, Archer." Calvin traced the contours of his fingers. He and Curtis would become one for family interests, and his child had to be tightly bound to him. Calvin smiled slightly. "Even better. The three of us form a perfect family. I'll let go of the benefits." Curtis agreed immediately. "Deal. See? In a powerful family, interest comes first, money and power above all." Curtis was no different, Calvin thought with a smirk. It didn't matter, he would use every means to make this family, built on transactions, unbreakable. Finally, the moment Archer stepped out of the hospital, Calvin smiled and spoke words long delayed. "Hello, Archer. I am your mother. He revealed everything. His boundless, inexplicable love. I didn't know what to say, so I took his hand. He smelled faintly of roses. I moved closer. Pressing me against him, he whispered with a smile. Archer, do you smell it? The roses, the scent of my pheromones. Don't be afraid. You are the one I have chosen. I won't let you go. You won't leave me, will you? Calvin lightly kissed my cheek. In the darkness, I quietly covered his exposed heart with my hand. 22. Early the next morning, Calvin had gone somewhere unknown. I opened my eyes to find the familiar scent absent. On the chair sat a somewhat disheveled man, leaning on his hand, half asleep. Curtis, I called. He jolted awake, his eyes bloodshot as they met mine. Archer. Calvin and I discussed some things. He hesitated. I also think I should be honest. Yesterday. I did it on purpose. I'm sorry. I froze. Curtis curved his lips faintly. But I don't regret it. Our relationship became unbalanced, this was the proper measure. Calvin and I are partners in interest. You are the reinforced chain. His tired expression relaxed slightly, but his eyes still radiated a sharp intensity. Archer. I need you to love me too. I remained silent. Curtis let out a helpless laugh. No eternal shared interests exist. Families never fully trust each other. Calvin and I must also watch each other. But your presence changes everything. You are a double assurance in this marriage of convenience. More reliable than an engagement ring. I will love you as Calvin does, to make sure neither of us can let you go, or abandon this perfect cooperation. Archer. I hope you love me. Don't let our balance break. His hands clasped, the black obsidian earrings gleaming in the morning light. He no longer appeared casual. Sharp brows, aggressive gaze, the aura of an alpha commanding everything. This was the rare heir of the Jiang family. Unexpectedly, Curtis offered both his ambition and his heart. I asked the question. Why, you? Why did he love me? Curtis had never liked this game of pretend at first. He arched an eyebrow. I'm a little vulgar. I physiologically like it, which turns into psychological liking. I remained silent, uninterested in asking when. For now, Curtis seemed far too excited. 21. I nodded, signaling my agreement to join. Curtis instantly returned to his usual self, lazily slumping in the chair and winking at me. After a moment, he asked, sulkily. Don't you have anything to say? I just looked at him, silent. Curtis sighed helplessly. There's nothing I can do. When you don't want to talk, no one can make you. He pinched my nose gently, his gaze softening. Tell me, how can a beta like you be this cute? I tried to walk away. Calvin appeared quietly, holding a fruit knife. Curtis, let go of him. Curtis jumped. What are you doing? Why a knife? Calvin ignored him and handed me a plate of sliced fruit. Archer, have some fruit. His voice was gentle. Curtis, unapologetically, tried to grab a piece with his fork. Calvin's tone sharpened. I cut it. You can't eat it. Curtis shot back. Come on, it's my house. What's wrong with eating fruit? Sensing another argument brewing, I spoke up. Mom, feed me. Though it was meant to sound playful, my voice carried no inflection. Calvin's expression lit up. He carefully fed me fruit with a fork, leaving Curtis glaring in displeasure. I chewed my apple, swallowing it with some effort. This house, without me, it would inevitably crumble. 23. Just as Curtis was insisting on feeding me himself, the doorbell rang. Daniel arrived, escorted by a servant. He looked weathered, his eyes red, reaching to embrace me, but Curtis shoved him back. Uncle! What are you doing? weren't you supposed to be traveling the world? Daniel choked on his words. Archer, your mother has cancer. You should go see her. I froze mid-chew. Calvin patted me reassuringly. Uncle John. Bella is Archer's biological mother. We won't stop him from visiting. He softened. But you said Archer has mental issues, and no one is looking after him properly there. How about this, we accompany him to see her, then he comes back here, all right? Daniel's face darkened with anger. What nonsense are you talking? Archer is my son. It's only right I take him back. Calvin's expression turned grim. Curtis, amused, scoffed. Uncle. I called you that out of respect. Don't overstep. Over all these years, have you done anything as a parent? You just sent him to a mental hospital because he doesn't talk. Is this a father's behavior? Daniel trembled with fury, turning to me. Archer. Will you come with me? Your mother has only a month left. She wants to see you. I stayed silent. After a long pause, Calvin relented. Take Archer, then. Return him tonight, or you'll regret it. Curtis opened his mouth to argue, but Calvin added softly. Archer wants to see her. We'll wait for him to come back. I was surprised that he had read my mind again, but I noticed the shadow of worry in Calvin's eyes. I held his hand, trying to ease his unease. I'll come back. Calvin's eyes widened in surprise, and he smiled, ruffling my hair. Good. We'll wait for you. 24. The woman in the hospital bed seemed to age overnight. Chemotherapy had stripped her of her hair, and the vibrant, elegant artist I remembered was gone. I stared at the unfamiliar face in memory, suddenly too afraid to speak. Bella, however, smiled at me, long overdue. Archer, come here. Come to Mom. I hesitated, nudged forward by Daniel. Her hand softly stroked my cheek. Archer, you've lost weight. How ridiculous. They had tried to fatten me. I lowered my head. For the first time, Bella didn't get angry at my silence. She said, Archer, only now do I realize my mistakes. I shouldn't have ignored you. I have always loved you. Archer, can you call me Mom, just once? I finally lifted my head. Bella hadn't always been this way. When I was little, she would bring souvenirs from her trips. I didn't care much about them, but I looked forward to it. Later, she grew impatient with me only nodding at her gifts. She would play with little carvings and tease me. Archer, call me Mom. I looked at the unfamiliar woman, feeling shy. Bella asked Daniel, worried. What's wrong? Why won't the boy speak? I anxiously grabbed her hand, but she had already grown impatient. How old is he? And he still doesn't talk? Boring, isn't it, darling? Where should we go tomorrow? I fell behind, finally whispering. Mom. But no sound came out. I grew silent again. Bella, thinking me increasingly odd, concluded I was mentally ill. Archer, can you call me Mom? Tears streamed down her face, her regret palpable. My throat felt constricted, like it had for 18 years. This time, Bella couldn't simply leave in annoyance. She lay in the hospital bed, bound by illness. 25. I still couldn't speak. I could no longer voice anything in front of them. Bella laughed, hysterical. Archer, how could you be my child? She scrutinized me with dissatisfaction. You ungrateful thing. I gave you life, and you won't even call me once. Fine. Don't call me, you'll never escape me. Daniel locked the door. I glanced at him in shock. Bella continued. All right, Archer. I'm going abroad for treatment, and you're coming with me. I don't like you, but you're mine. You'll never get away. Her malicious laughter mixed with tears. I'm only slightly guilty, and you think you're so important? Fine. If I can't be happy, neither will you. Archer, you shouldn't resist me. I glanced at the ring on my hand, but for some reason, I felt relief. She had never loved me, that was oddly comforting. Bella rang the bell, and a group of bodyguards rushed in, injecting me with a sedative. My eyelids grew heavy. I drifted into darkness. 26. When I opened my eyes again, I realized I was tied to a chair. The place looked like an abandoned factory. Daniel was on the phone, anxious. How could the flight be cancelled? Curtis? How did they know we were leaving? What? They're coming. Daniel hastily hung up and turned to Bella. Bella, leave him be. Why are we even bringing him? You can't overexert yourself. Let's go, just the two of us. Bella shook her head stubbornly. I hate him, no, I don't know. Why won't he go? Daniel looked at her, helpless. My hands were tied, but I could feel the ring on my finger. Curtis and Calvin had installed a tracker inside. I shouldn't be taken away again without reason. While I was lost in thought, Bella appeared, her voice icy. Archer, they're coming. I don't understand why. Two strangers, so annoying. When will my son and I have privacy? Daniel tried to reason with her. Bella, leave him be. This is criminal. Let's go. Shut up. Bella yelled, then instantly softened, tears streaming. Husband, won't you stay with me? Daniel hesitated, silent. Bella laughed, then suddenly pulled out a gun and shot Daniel in the knee. He collapsed in pain. Ignoring his screams, Bella smirked wickedly. Husband. I'm dying, and you want to go abroad for vacation, saying it's for my treatment. Do you think I'd believe that? Since you love me so much, come die with me. You go ahead, scout the way, and I and Archer will join you. Daniel's face twisted in horror, shouting. Bella! You lunatic, crazy woman. I was stunned by the twisted turn of events. Even if I had a mental illness, it must have been hereditary. 27. Bella killed Daniel. She collapsed on the ground, holding him, recounting their travels together, crying one moment, laughing the next. Why? He said he loved me. I got a terminal illness, and he wouldn't stay with me. Archer, you're all I have left, and you want to leave me too. I won't allow it. I won't allow it. I listened to her ramblings, heart in turmoil. If anyone knew she had a gun, what if something went wrong? I tried to speak. Kill me. I won't go with you. If I died, without hostages, they'd act without restraint. Bella smiled eerily. I know, Archer. You're afraid I'll hurt those two, aren't you? She picked up the gun. Luckily, there's one bullet left. Who should I kill? Which one would hurt you more? No rush. Take your time, she said, enjoying the sight of my tears. Finally, I heard sirens outside and Curtis and Calvin calling urgently. I screamed like a madman. No! Don't come in. She has a gun. They froze at the door. Bella shouted. Curtis, Calvin. You two come in. If there's anyone else, I'll kill them. Cold steel pressed against my head. 28. My tears stuck my eyelashes together, my vision blurred. The abandoned room fell silent for a long time. Good. They shouldn't come in. I knew the love was real, but their lives weren't their own. For the family, they would sacrifice everything, I had been taught the same. Unexpectedly, two figures slowly approached. In a daze, I felt like I was back on the day they picked me up from the hospital, taking me out of that cold prison. Curtis saw Daniel's body on the ground, voice calm. Bella, don't do anything foolish. Shut up, Archer. Look, he's really here. Choose, Who lives, who dies? Bella grabbed my face, voice vicious. Don't look at me like that. Your eyes are terrifying. Don't make me gouge them out. I looked at Curtis and Calvin, voice strained. Leave me out of this, just go. I know. You have your responsibilities. No. I've long been tired of serving the family, Calvin said softly but firmly. Choose me to die, Archer. Curtis will take care of you. I don't want you to struggle. Don't talk nonsense. Calvin, step aside. I'm the head of this family. Curtis held Calvin back, chuckling bitterly. My love isn't deep enough yet. But this is my first time loving someone. Why not go a little crazy? Fine, let me die. My dream of a perfect ending just flew away, Curtis exhaled. To hell with the family's interests, I truly felt it myself. My last words are said. Let me go. Bella screamed in fury. Shut up. Do you think this is some romantic confession? Fine. Archer won't choose. I will. She maliciously pointed at Calvin. You. Come here. Pretend to be gentle for whom? I'm his mom. Curtis panicked, grabbing Calvin, but Calvin resolutely brushed him off. All right. 29. This story is exclusively produced by the YouTube channel, Omegaverse Tales Studio. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Calvin's eyes were soft as he stepped forward. He said nothing. I knew he feared speaking would only deepen my pain. I had always been easily read by him, how could I not understand him in return? I feared he might abandon me, but his love never required pretense. I forced down the panic and pain, determined to see his face, refusing to hide. Footsteps drew closer. My chest heaved violently, ears ringing. Only Calvin's gentle gaze gave me a sliver of comfort amidst the agony. Finally, Bella raised her hand. The gun pointed at Calvin's chest. No! Mom! I screamed, voice raw and hoarse, echoing through the room, my throat burning. Bella trembled and pulled the trigger. A splash of blood bloomed across Calvin's white shirt. His body fell heavily to the ground. My vision blurred. Police swarmed the doorway, subduing Bella. Amid the wailing sirens, Curtis, nearly unconscious, untied me and held me tightly in his arms. 30. When I woke up again, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. Curtis was muttering beside me. Still not awake? Didn't they say you fainted from the emotional stress? It's been almost a whole day, still not waking up? I forced my eyes open and hoarsely asked. Calvin? Curtis froze for a moment, surprised to see me awake, his expression complicated and silent. Tears streamed down my face again, and he quickly explained. He's fine, well, not exactly fine, but no life-threatening injuries. The surgery went well. The bullet missed the heart. I cried tears of relief, feeling joy and frustration all at once. Then why that expression? I asked. Curtis smiled wryly. See? You're so worried about him. He's definitely gained a lot of brownie points now. I wiped my tears. You? I was worried too. All right, good boy. Glad you're not heartless. Even with a mom around, you can't forget your dad. Curtis went back to his usual playful self. I'd even take a bullet for you, really. Curtis winked mischievously. I laughed weakly, surviving the ordeal. 31. Calvin was wrapped in bandages, his face pale and weak. He gave me a teasing glance. All right, Archer, stop crying. I'm fine, see? I stubbornly held his hand, refusing to let go. Curtis sulked. Look at our Archer. Holding that hand all morning, aren't you afraid of sweating? Calvin glanced at him coolly. Curtis, you're really childish. Curtis just laughed. Fine, no arguing today. You're the hero. I even told the kitchen to make yam and pork rib soup for you. Loyal enough? Calvin snorted. You know I don't eat yam. Curtis grabbed my other hand, confidently declaring. I made it because we're brothers. Put yam in it because we're rivals. Calvin held my hand and kissed it lightly. If you keep treating me like your rival, you might just die of frustration. Curtis mocked. Fine. Who asked our Archer not to be from a single-parent family? Then he threatened playfully, kissing me. Archer, tell me, who do you love most, Dad or Mom? Calvin looked at him, a mix of gentleness and authority. Archer, you love Mom the most, don't you? Seeing both of them in such states, I suddenly thought of Bella and her death. I shivered and shut out their quarrels, refusing to say a word, letting them bicker. 32. I gazed at the winter morning sunlight spilling through the window and absent-mindedly touched the ring on my finger. It had been 6 months since the kidnapping. Bella had committed suicide in prison. But that last tremble of hers, what did it mean? Suddenly, a large hand gripped my wrist, returning it to my chest. His fingers also wore a ring. Calvin, enough stealing my hand already. Is this ever going to end? Calvin, ready to call me to breakfast, just stared. Crazy, I muttered. Archer, get up. Breakfast's ready. Calvin, as usual, pressed a soft morning kiss on my forehead. I resisted, politely refusing his help to dress me. Calvin looked a bit disappointed. All right, Archer, come on then. He held my fingers tenderly, the third identical ring pressing into my hand. Archer, tomorrow is my sensitive period. Don't forget. I nodded and kissed him, agreeing to sleep with him alone that night. Satisfied, Calvin left. This was our unspoken rule. Curtis had devised it, Calvin agreed, and I didn't care. I got dressed and shook Curtis awake. At the table, Calvin began his daily double standards. Curtis, eat faster. You'll be late for work. Archer, slow down. You'll choke. Curtis rushed off, grumbling. Why aren't you going to work? Calvin's calm voice couldn't hide his pride. Archer, now it's just the two of us at home, huh? I shrugged, used to it all. I ran to Calvin, throwing myself into his arms. Watch a movie with me. Calvin chuckled softly. Okay, secretly. Don't tell him. I rolled my eyes. These two. I blinked. Fine, but you have to behave. Calvin pretended to consider. How exactly should I behave? I hugged him, looking toward the door with him. Curtis barged in, muttering, snowflakes in his hair, nose red from the cold. Holiday today, and Calvin, you're still sending me to work? I couldn't help laughing. Curtis's instincts kicked in. Archer, was this your idea? I dodged his gaze, running and calling for Calvin. Help me. Curtis sneered, forcefully pinning me to the sofa. One cold hand pressed against my face, the other tickling me. You little rascal, still daring? I squealed through laughter and tears. Calvin, save me. Calvin, smiling, lifted me out. All right, enough bullying. Curtis, come help. Today we're making dumplings. Curtis's expression was complicated. I used to hate the perfect ending. Calvin cut him off. You don't have to eat it if you don't want. Curtis jumped. What about the second half of the sentence? What? I asked. The simplest is the most precious. Curtis exclaimed. Calvin scoffed. When did I know you were a philosopher? Curtis broke down easily. Don't underestimate me. I may be uneducated, but I did finish 9 years of compulsory schooling. I lay by the window, listening to their bickering. Snowflakes drifted down, turning the world into a hazy white. I remembered the cramped room of the psychiatric hospital, where I had no sense of time and let the blankness grow freely, no longer feeling loneliness. I reached out, touching the faint shadow of the boy I once was. Time slowly resumed. Shadows of the past were washed away. I stared at the fogged window and laughed from the heart. Then I turned and walked back to my home.